This is CBC Here and Now.
This is our opening day here at the Willows. We're really excited that we've been able to open and get everybody out on the course.
Today we are moving to Alert Level 4, the next phase of living with COVID-19 in our province.
It's the first day of easing restrictions. Some activities are starting to get back to normal, sort of. Good evening and welcome to Here and Now. I'm Peter Cowan. Tonight we're taking a look at Alert Level 4 and what it's like to ease some of the restrictions we've all been living with since March. Some businesses and services are now reopening, so are some outdoor activities, but nothing is business as usual. We'll start with Here Now's Mark Quinn, who's looking at the spring cleaning and the spring growing seasons.
Finally, there is a place to bring all the bottles and other recyclables that people have been saving up for weeks. Recycling drop-offs, like this one on Elizabeth Avenue, have reopened again. And here's something people on the Avalon haven't been able to do for a long time. This landfill's been closed to residents for many weeks, but today that changed. It looks like the city's plan to reopen the Robin Hood Bay landfill site slowly has worked. There's a steady flow of cars and trucks here today, but there are no long lineups. Today, the site is open to people with surnames who start with the letters A to E. Tomorrow, it's open for people with surnames that start with the letters F to J. It definitely smells a lot better here. This is another place that's allowed to reopen now that the province has moved to level 4. Flowers are growing here, but it's been hard to keep up with demand.
On the fresh cut flower supply, it's been a nightmare because the flights out of Miami were stopped and your lead time is much longer. And a lot of the farms in Colombia and Ecuador are actually closed, so it's much more difficult to find product. We've managed, but it's been quite a challenge.
The big weekend for garden centers like this is May 24th, and staff here are preparing for a weekend like no other.
Newfoundland, with such a short growing season, you get big crowds coming at one time, and that won't be possible, so we'll have to be managing the crowd flow and everything to make sure that we're compliant with the safety requirement.
Here at Holland Nurseries, there are signs that life is getting back to something near normal. They are getting ready for the gardening season. But now if I could just find someone to trim this old hedge. Mark Quinn, CBC News, St. John's.
With the province ushering in Alert Level 4, golfers took to the links today. Many courses aren't ready to open, but every tee time was sold out in Holyrood. While golfers celebrate, tennis players are wondering why they can't take a swing at reopening. Here Now's Jeremy Eaton has more.
It's windy, cold, and in any other year, not a great day for golfing. But in a global pandemic, this first round was welcomed by Paul Anderson.
Tiny piece of freedom again. It's going to be hard getting used to the new normal, but so far so good.
Golfers flocked to the Willows in Holyrood.
Everybody's really excited to be out, do something normal, something that they've always done, and something that they can actually go out and socialize, of course, respecting the social distancing measures.
In the COVID-19 pandemic world, it wasn't business as usual.
You can see there's a lot of signage around to remind people for the physical distancing. We've taken away the touch points on the course, the benches, not to touch the flags, ball washers, the rakes, everything's been taken away.
Staff also had to make the finish a little different.
There is a cup that pokes out of the ground. It's a little bit higher, so the ball doesn't actually go into the hole. It just hits the cup and rolls away.
The empty courts at Riverdale have nets, but no permission to play. Tennis Newfoundland and Labrador's technical director, Mike Meany, says it submitted a 6-page report on how tennis should be part of Alert Level 4.
Would simply just allow singles on the courts, private lessons. You would only get to play on every second court, so every second court would be empty. We'd have buffer times in between the private lessons or people playing singles.
On the courts, you share the same ball. Meany has a solution for that.
I bring a can of balls, you bring a can of balls. We open them both. I open mine, you open yours. One of us puts our initials on them, so we'll mark yours and put J.E. on them. Anytime a ball lands on my side of the court, I know not to touch that with my hands.
Meany is also on a panel of 14 coaches and court owners, all looking to get serves in.
kind of strategically working together to try to get, the rules pretty much standard across the country. And right now, 5 of the provinces are allowing it, right? New Brunswick, Ontario, Manitoba, British Columbia, Alberta.
Meany is hopeful that the government will review their proposal and allow players to get back on the tennis courts. If not, it looks like players won't be returning to action here until sometime in June. Jeremy Eaton, CBC News, St. John's.
Now, Dr. Janice Fitzgerald was asked about tennis at today's briefing, and she hinted that there may be changes coming.
Certainly we've received some information from the Tennis Association, and we are looking at that, reviewing things as this week progresses.
Well, the crab season opened today for fish harvesters, but many of them warn it won't be a good year. Some fish harvesters geared up today to head out, but there are fears about just how much money they'll make this season, with the price of crab set at $2.90 per pound and trip limits in place. On Saturday, a couple of 100 fish harvesters protested outside the FFAW offices. They're upset over the lack of supports for them during the pandemic. They're pressuring their union and the government for financial support programs. The union says it's lobbying the federal government for some relief money for fishermen since they don't qualify for wage subsidies or other government support programs already in place during the COVID-19 pandemic. Last week, the Minister of Fisheries and Oceans federally said that financial aid for harvesters in Atlantic Canada was just days away. Well, Labrador Marine is easing some restrictions on its ferry service starting today. The company will now lift the ban on non-essential travelers, but some restrictions will remain in place, including operating at half capacity. Passengers still have to stay inside their vessels during the crossing or stay socially distanced in a designated area if they're outside. Smoking on the ship is prohibited, and anyone needing to use the washroom will have to be escorted by a crew member. Passengers are also asked to wear a non-medical face mask if they can. The first day of Alert Level 4 also brought some good news, another day with no new cases of COVID-19. There continue to be 14 active cases, including 4 people who are in hospital. So what will it take to allow us to go to Alert Level 3 or, even worse, go up to Alert Level 5? Well, before easing restrictions, they want to see what will happen in the next 28 days. But the Chief Medical Officer of Health outlined the statistics she's got her eye on.
Not just the number of cases, but what the trends are in the number of cases. So are we seeing a sporadic case here or there? Or are we seeing a gradual increase in the number of cases day by day? We'll be looking at things like hospitalizations, and we'll be looking at ICU bed capacity, what our public health capacity is, and how well public health is responding to cases and contacts.
Do the new powers the province has to stop people from entering the province and kick someone out if they're breaking the rules violate the Charter of Rights and Freedoms? Well, the Canadian Civil Liberties Association thinks so, and it's looking at going to court in order to challenge the law. Kara Sweebel is with the group, and welcome to Here and Now.
Thanks for having me.
What concerns do you have about the legislation?
Well, our concerns are significant. This is a law that we think quite clearly infringes on charter rights. In Canada, Canadian citizens and permanent residents have the right to move freely within Canada, to move in and out of different provinces, the right to earn a living in different provinces. And those rights can only be restricted where it's reasonable and where the government can demonstrate a clear justification for doing that. And we don't think that that could be done in this case.
But isn't a pandemic a clear justification when they want to restrict movement in order to make sure that people don't bring the disease into Newfoundland and Labrador now that the levels are so low here?
The pandemic is definitely a factor to consider in terms of deciding when restrictions on rights are reasonable or not. But it's difficult to understand the justification for making this recent change when the province, previously had in place a rule around self-isolation for people coming into the province. That rule doesn't seem to have been, shown to be insufficient or inadequate. As you say, the province has numbers, very well under control. And so there's no clear reason why this kind of prohibition is being put in place now.
The province has pointed to, for example, some tourists who showed up here and weren't following the rules. They weren't doing the isolation period. And wouldn't this be a way, though, and this is one of the reasons they've said they need to actually stop people from coming here in the beginning. Doesn't that justify the reason for this?
I don't think the fact that, there's anecdotal evidence of some people not following the rules is good evidence that the rules are ineffective. What you need is for most people to follow the rules, and most people do. And I believe most people who want to enter the province want to do so because they intend to spend a significant amount of time there. They don't have a problem with having a period of self-isolation. But again, these restrictions are very significant, very tight. And the rules that have accompanied them, the powers that police and others have been given to enforce them, are also very problematic from a charter rights perspective.
Well, thank you very much for joining me and sharing your concerns today.
Thanks for having me.
Does the province think these measures are constitutional? Well, if they do, they won't come out and say it. I asked the health minister that question at today's briefing.
The way the Constitution and the Charter of Rights is framed allows for rights to be abridged or reduced only to the extent that is necessary for the greater public good. Whether or not our actions meet that test would be a decision a court would take should someone choose to challenge it.
The provincial Liberal leadership race will remain on hold at least until later this month when the party meets again. The race is to select a new leader and ultimately a new premier after Dwight Ball announced his resignation this past winter. The race has been put on hold because of the pandemic. The party has also sanctioned one of its candidates. John Abbott got a reprimand because he sent out a news release saying the race should be delayed until we're at alert level 3. Party rules prevent candidates from speaking out while the race is on hold.
Well, we had a windy day today. Winds will ease as we head towards the morning, then ramp right back up again tomorrow afternoon as our next low makes its way in. We'll have all the details coming up.
Welcome back to Here and Now. We've been talking about Alert Level 4 and what it means for businesses. Well, the phone has been ringing off the hook at a garden centre in central Newfoundland. The owners of Beautiful Flowers Nursery in Botwood say their customers are eager to get at their gardens. Here and Now's Garrett Berry takes us there.
My name is Marie Seward. I own and operate Beautiful Flowers Nursery in Bishops Falls on the Botwood Highway. And I'm so excited. I've been waiting for this day for a long time, and a lot of people have been waiting for it. The phone has not stopped at all. It's amazing. It's amazing, I have to say. A lot of customers are saying, we're so excited, we can't wait to get there and get our flowers. We need to get a fix. So this is what's happening today.
Well, it's a bit of a relief because we had to start up on schedule, which was in April, to bring in all the plants we're used to bringing in and sow the seed we're used to sowing. But we didn't know when we started out we would be able to sell it. So now there's just a bit of a relief knowing that people can come in here and buy the flowers. You just had to take a chance or just forget it for this year. So we just took a chance with it because if we didn't, well, we wouldn't have anything. It'd be pretty discouraging if we never started, and now we could have started, you know. We didn't think it'd be much interest up till now because it's still really early, and we never do see anybody around until around Mother's Day, and after that because of the cold weather. But for the last 2 or 3 weeks have been people phoning looking for seed potatoes and the vegetable transplants, and there's a bigger interest in it this year than I think it ever was before.
People are just, like, right now, it seems like they're right, I don't know if you call it on edge or not, but it's like they can't wait to get in the garden to get, like, their fingers in the dirt and something to give their mind something to do to keep them active and that, you know?
This weather update is brought to you by the Healthcare Foundation Home Lottery. Bonus deadline is midnight Friday. Order tickets now at hcfhomelottery.ca.
Pretty nice day outside if you were out away from the wind. Let's take a look at those numbers. Very blustery out there, anywhere from 40 to as much as 60 km/h winds right across the province today, but those temperatures, even though they were quite warm, certainly didn't feel like it. 10 degrees in St. John's, and then as you, for the rest of the island, you're pretty much looking anywhere from 5 to as much as 7 degrees, even 8 in Badger this afternoon. Quite warm up through Labrador though. Happy Valley Goose Bay at 10, same with Cartwright, and then we've got some of that colder air in for Lab West, so unfortunately your temperatures are still hovering around the 0 degree mark. We do have that low pressure system just to the north. Otherwise, not a whole lot happening today. Some periods of sun and some cloud across the island. And as we head through the overnight tonight, some of that colder air is going to stick with us as well. So we are looking at a chilly night, certainly up through Labrador, but overall the winds will ease as we head towards the morning hours. Skies staying anywhere from partly to mostly cloudy tonight. And again, in the morning, those winds you'll note will be significantly less than what we're seeing tonight. So clouds will move in through the day. We are looking at a rainy day tomorrow. Temperatures will be pretty similar to what we're seeing today. Even up through Labrador, you're looking at a gorgeous afternoon though. 9 degrees in Happy Valley Goose Bay, plenty of sunshine right towards the coast, but Lab City, again, some of that colder air very much in place. So you're still hovering around the 0 degree mark. Like I said, first half of the day looking okay. We should see some sunshine, not along the south though. Clouds will move in fairly quickly, and then rain, which will be heavy at times through most of central and the west coast. Your winds in the Rec House area upwards of 100 km/h through the afternoon. Then the winds will really ramp up. We're looking at periods of rain heading towards eastern areas of the island as well into the evening and overnight. And then along the northeast, we could see gusts near about 90 to 100 km/h. Up through Labrador, nice day, like I said, but the snow will move in towards the morning. Some rain potentially as well for the coast. And the reason why there is a special weather statement in effect is because we are going to see heavy snow as we head into Wednesday and overnight Tuesday into Wednesday. So as far as those rainfall goes across the island, you're looking at anywhere from 20 to 30 millimeters is a good bet. So a good soaking rain down along the south coast, Canaga Peninsula, Burin, as well as the southern Avalon, anywhere from 30 to as much as 50 millimeters of rain. So here's that low I was talking about, bringing that snow up through Labrador. It stays pretty much in place right through the day on Wednesday. Again, some rain will be in the mix through the day, but overall we're seeing anywhere from potentially 20 to as much as 40 centimeters of snow. Temperatures on Wednesday a little bit cooler, some peeks of sun possible for the east, but otherwise it is going to be a generally gray and cool day. So I wanted to share this great shot of Blue Hour and the North Star in Leading Tickles. Thank you to Roger for sending that in. If you have any weather photos to share with us, send them to nlphotos@cbc.ca.
Welcome back to Here and Now. While municipal parks and trails open throughout the province, not a lot is actually changing in Corner Brook. The Corner Brook Stream Trail Network, located in the heart of the city, has never closed. The city has relied on the good judgment of its walkers to keep their distance, and it's been working. The city has been monitoring the trails through its municipal enforcement officers and say there's universal compliance. According to some walkers, not much is expected to change.
Still being and everybody else that I meet, they're still being as careful as they were before. I didn't see any difference. People are still keeping their distance. If you meet somebody on the trail, they'll go to one side and you go to the other. But that's still being done. I don't see any difference in that. That's good.
Ottawa is offering financial assistance to big businesses needing big money to shore up and resume operations as they emerge from the pandemic shadow. It's a bridge loan plan, not a bailout, but the financing does come with conditions.
We'll protect taxpayers by putting in place strict limits on executive pay, on share buybacks, and on dividends. Companies that receive this funding will be required to commit to future climate disclosures and environmental sustainability goals. Companies will not be able to get this financing if they've been convicted of tax evasion.
Big employers in Canada making more than $300 million a year can apply for loans of more than $60 million. That means companies in the scale of Suncor or Air Canada or large retail operations. They must continue to respect collective agreements and pension plans. An analysis is underway to identify particular pressure points in different industrial sectors. Other aid plans may be developed in future as needed. Well, putting up big bucks for businesses while the pandemic is bashing economies around the world is not without risk. But Prime Minister Justin Trudeau has concerns that inaction could come at a much higher price.
I think the significant risk is that we see long-term damage to the Canadian economy, that we see significant large companies that employ millions of Canadians lose their existence, stop functioning because of this pandemic, and millions of Canadians lose their jobs.
In some non-pandemic related news, the life of a wild horse in central Alberta was saved by sheer chance last week, and the determination of a group of animal lovers.
To get that right behind her butt.
This young filly was stuck in the cold, muddy bog when several members of the Help Alberta Society happened to find her while out on their ATVs checking for foals. Fortunately, the group always travels with ropes and straps. It took about an hour, but as you can see there, they managed to finally get the exhausted animal free. She'd likely been there for hours and was so hungry after her ordeal, she immediately started grazing. The group says she'll be fine now, but had they not come by, she probably wouldn't have survived the night.
It's okay.
Oh, look at that. Well, a new take on the meaning of footloose and fancy-free. Well, these are some of the youngest competitors in an online jigging contest, meant for people of all ages. It was created by a dance champion from Sandy Bay First Nation in Manitoba as a way to lift spirits during the pandemic. And I think we'd all say, mission accomplished there. Look at that dancing. Okay, that's actually pretty impressive for a kid who's still in a jolly jumper. Okay, that's probably better than I'd be able to do. Well, we appreciate you spending part of your evening with us. That's Here and Now for tonight. And don't worry, we'll be back tomorrow night with all your latest news and weather information. You can stay tuned. We've got the latest news out of the Maritimes coming up. And if you want to check out the news at any time, you can always go to our website, cbc.ca/nl. We've got all the latest pandemic-related news, including some explainers on things like testing. So go ahead and check it out. I'm Peter Cowan. Thanks so much for watching. Carolyn will be back with you tomorrow night.